Hey everybody, Ray here. You know, one of my hobbies is to do a little guitar playing and singing and recording in my basement. And what I've learned over the years is that the more you can do to get a flat quality sound without echoes, the better your recording is going to be. When I listen to my monitor speakers, which also have portholes in the back, I get too much echo or sound reflection coming off of that flat wall. So what I'm going to do is make a couple of DIY homemade sound absorption panels. We'll do that using making a basic frame, covering it with cloth, and putting some sound dampening foam in behind. So if that has an interest to you, stick around. I'll show you how I do it. Now, our frames for our sound absorption panels don't have to be very fancy at all. I want my insulation that's going to go inside these frames is going to be like 2 inches deep. So I bought 1x3s, and these are just regular common lumber 1x3s. I bought 3 of them because I want the dimensions of my absorption panels to be roughly 24 by 36. So these 3 boards, common boards, make sure you get nice straight ones, at Lowe's cost me $11.18. So the frame itself is pretty darn cheap to make. So I measured it, I marked 36 inches on my board here, and I've set my stop block. So now every time I make a cut against that stop block, I'll have the same 36-inch length on each board. And those boards are exactly the same. I'm going to cut 4 like this, and then I will reset my stop block to around 22 inches, which will actually give me about 23.5 in total width because I get 3/4 of an inch on each one of these. All right, so I have my 4 uprights here cut to 36 inches. I have my 4 cross pieces here cut to 36 inches. So now what we're going to do is to just screw and glue these together. Now normally you would not want to screw into the end grain of a board, but in this case there's really not going to be a lot of stress on that corner. I don't really care how it looks because the whole thing is going to be wrapped in fabric. You're not even going to see the wood anyway. And after I glue it and screw it, it'll have plenty of strength. Now, to make sure that my corners stay square when I put those screws in, I've made this little piece like this. And it's square on this end, and then you cut these notches out. And what those notches will do will allow you to get that square in there, get your corner nice and square, make sure your ends are flush, and then put your clamp on. And do that to both sides. And then you know that that corner is going to be nice and square when you put those screws in there. That's a really good little helper, that jig. So the first thing we'll do is to drill a couple of pilot holes in here. Especially since we're going into an end grain, we don't want to split that wood with the screw. I'll put 2 screws in each corner. And I want those screws to be flat or flush with the end, so I'm going to countersink them. So I switch to my countersink bit here. Time for a new countersink bit. This one's gotten pretty dull. Now we'll just run our screws in there. I'm using a 1 5/8 screw, which should give me plenty of grip inside there. You don't have to over tighten it. In fact, I'm using my drill here and it's not on its tightest setting. I'm not using the driver that I would normally use to do this because I don't want to over torque it. See, even that was a little bit over torqued, but we did fine. We didn't hurt anything there. Okay, so we have all of our corners are now screwed together. And here's our basic frame. Came out to be pretty square. Should be no problem with that. We'll just check that out here. Yep, corners are nice and square. This is going to have fabric draped all the way around it. So as I said before, we're not all that concerned about the looks so much as the fact that we want it square. We're going to be putting foam inside here and then maybe even covering the back. So the basic structure is done and it looks pretty good. Okay, we have our frames all made. The only thing that I did not show you was that when I made these frames, I sanded off all of these edges. So when I draw my material around here to make it tight, nothing will cause that material to tear. This is a 2-inch foam that I'm going to use for the sound absorption. And the package looks like this. It comes from Walmart. It's just called Project Foam. And this was $20-something. I will give you the prices of everything that I'm using here because this is actually going to be a pretty cost-efficient sound absorption panel. And then I just simply took my frame, laid it on the foam, and then marked how large I needed the foam to be to fit inside of this frame. The only other thing I've done is this will be the material that will cover that frame. Now, I'm not really much of a lime green guy. That's not my favorite color, but I have one of my favorite paintings up above my studio desk that was done by a friend of mine, and it's got some lime green in that painting. So this should match up really well with that painting and hopefully look pretty good. Hey, worst case is if I don't like the way it looks, I buy a little bit more material for $8 and something cents and I just recover these things with a different color. So I'm going to cut this out, this foam out with the scissors, and I'll come back and show you what that looks like. So we cut our foam out to fit inside of our frame here. I cut it maybe, a 1/2 inch larger than I needed to because I wanted it to fit in there fairly snug because I didn't want it to be sliding around. And now we're just going to lay it down on our cloth here, and I cut 2 pieces out. For this, as I said, this is like 36 by 24, so I needed 2.5 yards of fabric to be able to wrap both of these. So the first thing we'll do is we'll take our cloth here on one end and we'll just make sure that it's kind of even. We're not worried about stretching it too tight at this point. And we're just going to put our staples in, I don't know, every 8 inches or so. You can always come back and add more staples. Just making sure that it's kind of taut. And then we'll get on the other end. Now on this end, we're going to make sure we get this stretched a little more tightly. And we'll stretch it. And then we'll pull it up. Make sure it stays stretched. And we'll put our staple in. And we're going to do that in a couple of different places here. Probably shorten it up now to about every 6 inches while we stretch it. Okay, now we're going to go and do the two parallel sides. You don't need to watch me do all this stapling. Then I'll come back and show you what it looks like. Now we've got our fabric wrapped around here. It's stapled. Did the corners as best we could. It's nice and taut in the front, so there's no wrinkles. And all we have to do now is go around and cut off this excess fabric here. And then we're going to hang it up and see what it looks like. And I'll let you know how it sounds. Okay, well, that's another project completed. Hopefully you can tell there's really not much echo when I'm talking. I'm really lucky in the fact that if you look up above here, you can see that I have a dropped ceiling. And it's also kind of textured blocks, if you will, drop ceiling. So that's pretty acoustically dead to begin with. So I don't get a lot of echo off of there. Reducing the echo off of that back wall makes it even better. And then what I'll probably do is put a little bit of foam in behind this painting back here, which will improve it a little bit more. But I'm pretty happy with the way that it sounds right now, and I'm pretty happy with the way these acoustic panels turned out. They were extremely inexpensive. I'll give you the prices for those. And it was a really easy project to do. I think that it blends in really nice with the painting that was done by my friend that I like so much. And I'm just very happy with the way it looks. Hey, if you like this video, don't forget, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video.